For years she had been feeding a woman from the streets, not knowing why, just an impulse that appeased her own hunger for answers. Until one ordinary morning, a man appeared with words that shattered her reality. "We found your mother." An absurdity. Her mother had been dead for 15 years, buried in the past, along with all the unanswered questions. But what lay behind that statement was a more painful secret. The abandonment had never occurred. The truth was lost, and she would have to confront it. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is the Linda's Stories channel. I hope you enjoy this story. The aroma of fresh coffee was Emily Collins's natural alarm at 6 in the morning. In a still, silent house with her children and husband sleeping, that was her moment of peace before the daily hustle. At 35, Emily had built a life that many would consider complete. A solid marriage with David, 2 wonderful children, Aidan and Chloe, and a stable job as a human resources manager in a medium-sized company. But there was an emptiness, a void that neither her husband's love nor the children's laughter could fill. Sitting at the kitchen table, Emily looked at a small wooden box she kept hidden at the back of the cabinet. Inside it, only a photo yellowed by time, a young woman shyly smiling at the camera, holding a baby wrapped in a pink blanket. It was the only image Emily had of her mother, Grace. Emily grew up in the house of her Uncle Robert, her father's brother. After the sudden death of her father when she was only 5 years old, her uncle took her in with a silent kindness. Robert was never a man of many words, much less of displays of affection. He fed her, clothed her, provided her with an education, but he was never able to replace the warmth of a true family. "And my mother?" Emily often asked during her childhood. The answer was always the same, a tired sigh followed by an evasive response. She left, Emily. It was better this way. The absence of concrete information fueled a whirlwind of fantasies within Emily. Sometimes she imagined her mother was an international spy who had to abandon her to protect her. Other times, she convinced herself that her mother had died, but her uncle did not want to tell her the truth to spare her the pain. In her adolescence, the fantasy gave way to anger. What kind of mother would abandon a small child? What kind of person would disappear without a trace? At 18, when she left her uncle's house to attend university, Emily decided she would no longer waste time thinking about the one who abandoned her. She focused on her studies, graduated with honours, started working, met David, and at 26, gave birth to her first child, Aidan. 2 years later, Chloe was born. Motherhood transformed Emily. The unconditional love she felt for her children brought back the old questions. How could someone abandon a part of themselves? One night after putting the children to bed, Emily found David on the porch of their modest suburban home. He was drinking a cup of tea, gazing at the stars. Emily sat beside him, wrapped in her old coat, inhaling the scent of the fresh night air. "I was thinking," she began hesitantly, maybe it's time to look for my mother." David held her hand firmly. "You are also a daughter, Emily. You have the right to know where you came from." She sighed, her eyes reflecting the streetlights. "I have my children now, David, and I feel silly for feeling so vulnerable when I touch on this subject. Honestly, I don't really know what to do." He just smiled, in that gentle way that always melted her heart. He knew that the hole in her heart would never close without answers. It was in the summer of that year that Emily finally decided to take a vacation from work. Not to travel or rest, but to embark on a search she had postponed for too long. Uncle Robert had passed away 2 years earlier, taking with him the few secrets he might have known. Emily gathered the few remnants of the past that still remained in her hands. A yellowed birth certificate on which only Grace Smith was listed as her mother's name. A name so common that upon searching for it she encountered countless other Grace Smiths in records and databases, diving into numbers and duplicates without finding anything that brought her closer to the real one. In addition, she kept an old photograph, already worn by time. Every detail of the image seemed to whisper fragments of a story that Emily longed to hear. Lastly, there was the silver bird-shaped pendant, the only piece of jewellery her Uncle Robert had mentioned belonged to her mother. With these fragments of history, Emily hired a private detective, Gregory Shaw, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and gentle manners. "I can't promise quick results," he warned at their first meeting. "With so little information, it will be like searching for a needle in a haystack." "I understand," replied Emily, "but I'm not in a hurry. I've waited my whole life." The holidays passed without any major discoveries. Emily returned to work, to the routine of being a mother, to the small joys and frustrations of everyday life. Monthly, Gregory updated her on the progress of the investigation, which was advancing at a slow pace. He interviewed old neighbours, searched hospital records, and combed through police files. Nothing substantial emerged. As the months went by, Emily began to accept that she might never find the answers she was looking for. The expenses for the detective started to weigh on the family budget. There was the house mortgage, the children's school tuition, the car that needed repairs. One night, while paying yet another credit card bill, Emily saw the detailed statement. The detective's fees, David's birthday dinner the previous month, school supplies for the children, and various small expenses that together amounted to a considerable sum. "Maybe it's time to stop this," she said to herself, looking at the photo of her children on the coffee table. Maybe some mysteries should remain that way. Almost a year after starting the investigation, when Emily was seriously considering ending the search, the phone rang on a Sunday morning. It was Gregory, the detective, with a voice that mixed excitement and caution. "Emily, I think I've found something." A woman who lived on the streets, in a more remote area of the city, was seen there about 15 years ago. They searched for the family, but found no one at the time. "The descriptions match the little you gave me." Emily's heart raced. It was the same city, just 45 minutes from here. After hanging up, she stood still, holding the phone, feeling a mixture of fear and hope that made her dizzy. "Go," said David, noticing her hesitation. "You need to know." Emily drove to the neighbourhood indicated by the detective, a run-down area on the outskirts of the city. The dirt roads were filled with accumulated trash, and the houses, when they weren't makeshift shacks, showed evident signs of abandonment. Barefoot children ran between puddles of dirty water, and adults with vacant stares huddled in small groups. Following Gregory's directions, Emily arrived at a desolate square, where a woman of about 50, with a face marked by the sun and a hard life, was sitting on a broken bench. "Excuse me," Emily began, showing the yellowed photograph. "I'm looking for this person. She is my mother." The woman looked at the photo with squinted eyes. "Oh, I knew your mother, yes. She used to come around here. But that was a long time ago. A very long time." Emily, hopeful, wanted to know more. "Can you tell me? Are you sure?" "I am hungry. Can you spare some change?" Emily handed over some bills, which the woman quickly tucked into the torn pocket of her coat. "Your mother showed up around here about 15 years ago. But she left. Or disappeared. I don't know." In the following weeks, Emily returned to that same place several times. With each visit, she brought food, water, and sometimes clothes for the woman, who identified herself only as Wanda. In return, she received confusing fragments of information about her supposed mother. She was beautiful, even when dirty. She sang softly, lullabies. But no matter how much she insisted, Wanda could never provide concrete details, names, or precise dates. Her stories changed slightly with each meeting, as if she were trying to please Emily, thus ensuring the continuation of the visits and help. Once Emily offered more than just food. "I can get you out of here, Wanda. Give you a place to stay, food, a bath, clean clothes." The answer was a curt no, accompanied by a frightened look. After that, Wanda became more evasive, as if she feared that Emily would force her to change her life. Frustration was growing. The money saved for the investigation was dwindling. Emily's nights were filled with confusing dreams where she saw her mother, always with her back turned, always walking away. She woke up exhausted, annoyed by the noise of her children, impatient with David's small faults. The obsession with the search was affecting everything around her. Until one particularly difficult afternoon, after an argument with David, Emily returned to see Wanda, determined to get a definitive answer. "Tell the truth," she demanded, speaking more forcefully than she intended. "Did you really know my mother?" Wanda, cornered, lowered her eyes. "Your mother died 15 years ago." Emily collapsed. The certainty in Wanda's voice, different from the usual confusion, hit her like a punch. She returned home devastated, cried in her husband's arms. Years of searching, of hope, of comings and goings, all for nothing. Her mother had died alone, nameless, with no one. David cradled her like a child, patiently, allowing the tears to wash away years of doubts and fantasies. "Now you know," he whispered. "Now you can move forward." Emily agreed, exhausted. It was time to close that chapter. She called Gregory the next day, thanked him for his efforts, and ended the investigation. She promised herself that she would focus on her family, on her present, no longer chasing ghosts. But 3 days later, the phone rang again. It was Gregory, with an urgency in his voice that Emily had never heard before. "Emily, it's the detective. I need you to come to St. Raphael Hospital. We've found your mother." "But she died!" exclaimed Emily, feeling a mix of anger and confusion. "She is alive," replied Gregory, his voice firm and clear. "Please, come as soon as possible." St. Raphael Hospital was an old psychiatric institution located on the outskirts of the city. Emily drove there with her heart racing, not knowing what to expect, fearing she might be facing yet another disappointment. Gregory was waiting for her at the reception desk, accompanied by a middle-aged doctor, Dr. Lauren Bennett, who greeted her with a firm handshake. "Mrs. Emily, your situation is quite peculiar," the doctor began, guiding her down a long and silent corridor. "The patient we believe to be your mother was admitted here exactly 15 years ago. She was found disoriented after an accident. She had a neurological trauma, no documents, no memory. She behaved like a child. We have never been able to identify her." The doctor explained that at the time, without advanced technology and networked fingerprints, the woman was catalogued as unknown and remained hospitalized, cared for by the team but forgotten by the outside world. "How did you find me?" Emily asked, trying to process all of it. "Your detective was persistent," smiled the doctor. "He searched through old accident records and cross-referenced them with psychiatric admissions. When we saw the photo you provided and compared it with our patient, well, the resemblance is undeniable." They stopped in front of a door. Dr. Lauren looked at Emily kindly. "She doesn't remember anything from her previous life. She won't recognize you. Are you prepared for that?" Emily nodded, even without being sure. The door opened. The room was simple, but cozy. A wide window allowed sunlight to enter, illuminating the woman seated in a wheelchair. Her hair was completely white, tied in a loose bun. Her face, although marked by time, preserved a serene beauty. Her eyes, identical to Emily's, were fixed on the hands resting in her lap. "Mother," Emily whispered, approaching slowly. The woman did not react. She continued to look at her own hands, where her thin fingers traced invisible patterns. Emily knelt before her, her heart beating so hard it felt like it would burst from her chest. Carefully she took the silver bird-shaped pendant from her pocket and placed it in the woman's palm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the woman's fingers closed over the pendant. Her eyes lifted, meeting Emily's. There was no recognition there, just a gentle curiosity. Emily hugged her tightly, tears flowing freely, and almost reflexively, the woman returned the gesture. A sweet, tender, silent embrace. She did not recognize her. She did not say her name. But something in that touch spoke more than 1,000 words. All her life, Emily carried the idea of having been abandoned. A mother who left, who disappeared, who left her alone. But in that moment, holding that fragile body, she understood. Her mother did not leave by choice. She had vanished in the chaos of an accident, wounded, confused, forgotten. It was not an escape. She didn't leave her. She got lost. Forgiveness came easily, like the hug, like the tear that ran down Emily's face. The mother didn't remember again, but Emily now would remember for both of them. The hospital documents confirmed the story. Grace had suffered a severe car accident 15 years ago when she was returning from a trip. The impact caused irreversible brain damage, resulting in deep amnesia and cognitive regression. Emily transferred her mother to a clinic closer to her home. She started visiting her every week. She brought her children, flowers, books. She sang to her. She told stories of the past and the present. Even without memories, Grace smiled, and from time to time, when Emily held her hand, she squeezed it back. A simple gesture. A secret code between two souls who, despite everything, had found each other again. On one of these days, Emily brought with her a box of old photographs she had found in her uncle's apartment after his death. Among them was a photo of a young Grace holding baby Emily, with the bird pendant around her neck. On the back, a dedication read, "To my daughter Emily, may your wings be stronger than mine. With eternal love, Mom." Emily cried, embraced by her mother who did not recognize her, but now she understood. Love, even when forgotten, always finds a way back. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.